Hey there, Norman here from Noise Engineering. Thanks for joining me for another edition of Noise Cues. Noise Cues is the series where we talk about patch techniques and general synthesis. Be sure to check out all of the other episodes because there's a ton of cool tips and tricks in there. Today's episode is all about performing with the Mimetic Digitalis, and we're going to cover the basics in this episode. The MD was designed with performance in mind, and there's a lot of cool ways that you can add dynamics and a jamming feel to your patch. If you're looking for the basics on how the module works, be sure to check out the manual video here. Let's start with how to program pitch in CV. The MD has 4 channels that can be used to sequence pitch or CV for modulation. Today we're going to be focusing on 0 and shred to adjust your voltages on the fly. This can be done while the sequence is running and while it's stopped. Both of these buttons only affect the step that you're on, so while stopped the rest of the sequence will stay the same. While running, it'll affect which step it is currently on. Holding the button longer will affect more steps. There are also some really handy button combos to help generate some amazing sounds. For CV, or if you don't want any constraints on your pitches, use load and shred. This instantly shreds all 16 steps. Load and 0, instant 0 of all 16 steps. For pitch, we have some similar combos. 0 and shred will pitch shred, which shreds the current step but restricts the voltages to 1 octave. Load, 0, and shred will pitch shred all 16 steps. MD has 1 trigger output, which makes pairing with the Fractio Solum pretty awesome. In this batch, I have the trigger out clocking the FS. I am also resetting the FS using the Horologic Solum 64 output so that it stays in time. I can then send all 4 of the outputs from FS to Pons S Norm to use for my envelope needs. I have envelope 1 going to the Viola Rubina, which is filtering the Loquelica Terratas. Envelope 2 is going to Sync Bucina, which is filtering the Cursus Terratas. Envelopes 3 and 4 are being attenuated by Lapsus Oz, and then are being used for modulation on our oscillators. Another great use of the trigger out is for clocking effects. Since I have the HS, I can clock the FS from one of the other outputs, and then use the trigger out on the MD to clock my reverb. I'll use the Electus Versio for this. That way, my verb is always in perfect time with my sequence. Now I'll swap these back so that FS is being clocked from the trigger output. One of my favorite performance tools with the MD is the stop-run switch. Using this switch at the right time is just the thing to add in some breaks, rests, and build-ups. The great thing about the MD is that even when it's stopped, the clock is still running. Because of this, it'll pick up at the spot it would have been in had it not been stopped. There are saving and loading combos that really speed up the process of changing sequences on the fly. After you make your sequence, just hold save and press any of these 8 buttons to save it in that spot. All of these buttons correspond to the same save slots that you can get to with the encoder. Loading the sequence is just as easy. Hold down load and press any of the 8 buttons to load that sequence. My other favorite performance tool with the MD is the undo button. This is great for changing the sequence on the fly, and then being able to go back to how it was with the push of a button. I use this one a lot when jamming. Okay, now that we have the basics down, let's add another voice to the mix. We'll send CV out 2 over to the Cursus Certoritas. What's really neat about the MD is that by selecting your sequence or sequences here, you can use the controls to change both sequences at the same time. Of course, you can still choose one at a time, but you can get some really cool sounds by selecting more than one at a time. Hey, thanks a lot for hanging out with us today and going over the basics of jamming with the Mimetic Digitalis. Don't forget to check out the other Noise Cubes videos because there's a lot of really cool tips and tricks in there. If you liked the video, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and sign up for notifications so you don't miss a beat. I'm going to jam out on this patch for a while. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.